Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious One's continuing coverage of the PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We have the great pleasure of being joined by Gary Kraftsow. He is with the American Viniyoga Institute. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
You are the author of Yoga for Transformation, as well as numerous other books. You were here speaking about yoga and transformative practices. How did you first come to the world of yoga and meditation?
Oh my, well, I was a young college student, and I had an opportunity to go to India with a study group. But I went and met Krishnamacharya and his son Deskacharya, famous, back in the early 1970s. And I came home and graduated from college and went back and lived there for 2 years. Then came back to the United States and went to graduate school, studied Sanskrit, and got deeply into it. Then I went back to India. So I've lived on and off it was Madras then, now it's Chennai, and I lived on and off there for over 4 years. Okay. And that's been my life work since 1974 when I met them. So here we are 51 or 2 years later.
Interesting. And, I've known yoga practitioners for years, things like that, but most of them are casual practitioners. A lot of them don't understand exactly the way of life that yoga actually is and the shift of mentality in that kind of way. It's more like kind of like them going to the gym, basically, is how they practice yoga, which is perfectly fine. It's great for you. Does all kinds of things. Yeah. But there's a difference when you start living Ayurvedically and start using the actual practices of yogic tradition, things like that. Let's start cracking that nut a little bit and getting into some of that.
So first of all, yoga is fundamentally about the transformation of the mind. But the ancients recognized that the human system is multidimensional. So we have our functional anatomy, and the asana practice, the exercise aspect of yoga, is really designed to help us create a conscious relationship with our functional anatomy so that we can influence the direction of change as we move through time. And then we have our physiology. And our physiology, it's a complex system, but the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system together regulate all the other bodily functions. And through our work, they develop breath-centric asana practice and pranayama breath techniques to give us a conscious relationship with our autonomic nervous system, and through that, an ability to influence all of our physiology. But most importantly, it's of course about the mind, which includes our feelings, emotions and feelings, and then our cognitive processes and our self-image and our identity. And so the whole art and science, and it's a little bit more complicated, but simply chanting and meditation are designed to give us control and over time with practice, mastery over our minds. So it's a multidimensional science which has been kind of reduced to just one dimension in the vast majority of the public's understanding of what yoga is.
Yeah, the public practicing of yoga. Yeah.
Which is, as you said, it's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good system of exercise. It's much more than that, of course. Yeah. But that's where the general public thinks, or how the general public thinks about yoga.
Yeah. And a lot of this show is literally demystification of things and getting to the deeper meaning, getting rid of the misunderstandings and the preconceived notions that a lot of people may have about topics, and especially about things like yoga, because it really is it's once again a lifestyle and a complete philosophy set that you begin practicing once you get to the point that you're at. So how do you begin that journey with somebody? When somebody first comes to you to begin practicing yoga in that kind of way, beyond the mat?
Well, it's interesting to see who comes to see me and what they're coming for and what their pre-concept of yoga is. But if somebody, and actually interestingly, the strongest motivator when people come to seek out deeper yoga is pain and suffering. And then they're looking for some kind of help. If it could be something as simple as structural pain or some physiological condition or disease process or psycho-emotional. And often that is a motivator for practice, because otherwise, they go because they want to meet a mate. They go to the yoga class to meet the right woman or the right man. I mean, there's all kinds of more superficial reasons why people come. But if they're looking for deeper teachings, then it's a matter of listening to them and taking a kind of a multidimensional intake, understanding what's going on in their structure, their physiology, their emotions, their orientation to their own future, what their values are. And then as we understand who they are, we begin to craft an individualized practice that's calibrated to meet their needs and interests and to provide them a path of practice that they can engage in to influence the direction of their own future, their own lives.
Yeah, and it really is that point of manifestation, and the fact of, as we've been talking about, not only on the show, but here at the conference, the fact that everything is entangled. We are an integral part of the universe, and it's an integral part of us. When we move, it responds. It moves around us. And once you get to understand that, it's a completely different world of understanding.
It's interesting. Here they're using the word entanglement a lot.
Yes.
And we use the ancients. I'm a scholar as well of Sanskrit and ancient texts, and we use the word nama rupa prapancha, which basically means the world of name and form, which means all things, all of materiality. And the Vedic idea, the yogic teaching, is that we're entangled in the world of name and form, and then we're caught in the wheel of cause and effect that causes, and that leads to, not only the repetition of consequences of our action in our day-to-day life,
karmic repercussions,
exactly, but then
reincarnation,
exactly.
Everything.
So we are entangled in the world of name and form, and the goal of yoga is to recognize who we truly are as consciousness itself that's actually distinct from materiality. But when we understand that, we can begin to master or influence the direction of change and gain mastery over this world of name and form, and ultimately become disentangled and free. That's kind of the ultimate goal.
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I'm a binaural beat musician. I'm an audio engineer. My world is frequencies, and the idea I have always said on my show that we are basically conscious frequency. You look at I made A's in 9th grade science. I remember we are 90% empty space. The only thing making us solid is a quantum field. That's it. Like, what we feel is an electronic repulsion of atoms and electrons. So the idea that we are a conscious vibration, and come the day that because you can't unring a bell, gonna reverberate into time, into eternity every time you ring a bell. So
the butterfly wing creates a tornado or whatever.
So what happens is we basically learn to vibrate an octave higher, and we just move through the meniscus to the next dimension. We shed this literal material coil and move on as the conscious vibration that we are. And once you understand that you are a conscious vibration, and that the world sings in accord with you, and that you're a part of that chord.
Yeah, I mean, the yoga teaching about that is that our job is to clarify our minds so that we can really see the way things are, and then align our lives with the way things are. That's called dharma, the way things are. And then our svadharma is how we manifest in our own personal lives that alignment with the way things are. And as we empty ourselves of our dramas and ideations and attachments and fears and aversions, and we come more clearly in the present, then we can start to harmonize. And with that level of harmony, that is the strategy of what the Sanskrit word translates as auspiciousness. How to create auspiciousness in life is to align with the way things are, and harmonize your life with the nature of reality, the true nature of reality.
Yeah, and one of the big points we talk about regularly on this show is consent. Consent into a system. Whether it's hey, you want to keep being angry, keep consenting into that, and see how much power you literally give the other person.
Yeah, that's well said.
That idea of we consent into doing that, and we constantly consent into that. And once you realize that you can consent not to, it's a pretty mind-expanding concept when you actually realize, I don't actively have to worry about that. I don't have to. I choose to.
We would say that just further entangles you. In conflict and
I am an anxiety sufferer. I got off my meds a year ago. It's been amazing. It's been great. But I went through a lot of preparation for that, and a lot of understanding myself, understanding my physical cues, and understanding that I can't, like, aversion therapy does no good for you. You
No,
can't
no.
escape. You're not going to always be able to escape the anxiety situation. You have
Right.
to be able to focus, respect the anxiety, respect what your body is telling you, acknowledge it, and know that it's still all going to be okay.
Yes, but then there's also these techniques of breathing that because anxiety
Yes.
is a psycho-emotional but psychophysiological phenomenon.
It
and with the
is.
breath control, you can create sympathetic, parasympathetic balance.
Yeah.
Right?
And-
And then you can do the work to transform your thought process.
Well, and you know, it's interesting because for about 6-7 months, I actively went to a panic therapist for a while, and that was one of the things he taught me
Yeah.
was, have you noticed whenever you have your anxiety attacks that you are gasping for breath? He's like, number one, anxiety attacks will never give you a heart attack, Chris. They won't. They will not bring about a zipper scar for you.
No.
That's something totally different. It's okay. Your loss of breath is, he's like, when you notice that you're out of breath, realize how you're breathing.
Yeah.
Notice that you're gasping for breath through your mouth. That's not how oxygen gets to your lungs. It gets to your lungs cursorily through there, but it's
Yeah.
supposed to go through your nose. Like, breathe through your nose, out through your mouth. Slowly, square wave. Like, start focusing on your breathing and just where you are
Yeah.
and watch it dissipate.
And in fact, you asked me earlier, where do you start with someone?
Yeah.
And I said it depends, but actually almost everyone, where we begin is helping them to become conscious of their own respiratory process and teach them how to progressively deepen their inhalation and their exhalation. And then it gets more complicated. If you're having depression, it's different than if you have anxiety, although they're related. So we adjust the breathing, but ultimately we give people the power to influence their own autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, precisely. Because at that point, believe it or not, folks, but once you start regulating your breathing, you're changing the pH in your blood. Like, it's literally a chain reaction. It's like having bad shoes. You're eventually going to have bad ankles, bad
That's
knees,
right.
and bad hips, and a bad back.
And directly connected, and this is a more technical thing about the limbic brain and the amygdala and the hippocampus, but your autonomic nervous system and your emotions and then your cognitive processes are intimately related.
Absolutely.
And it's much easier to influence your breath than it is to change your thought or your
That's
emotions.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good doorway.
Well, and let's drill down on that real quick, just as a point, because one of the things we bring up regularly is a study that was released by the National Institute of Health right on the cusp of COVID, right as things were ending, talking about damage to the hippocampus due to negative news cycles.
Yeah.
Not even joking.
Yeah,
It's a
interesting.
major study, and it's out there, and it's one of those, like, we were all locked away with that slamming into our face on timelines on the news. You could not change the channel for 2 years.
All you could do is turn it off.
All you could do was turn it off.
Which is a smart thing to do.
It is. But that addictive nature of our brain, that want of the release of even cortisol,
Yeah.
is hard. It's a hard drive, and it's hard to put that down. And it's a funny thing to think that the response your brain gets of the joy of scrolling, while at the same time bruising your hippocampus due to a constant negative news cycle. And it's a loop, and it's an addictive loop.
Yeah, and so, when it's strong like that, there's another tool that we use. People misunderstand it, and they think it has to do with religion, and it doesn't, although it's utilized by all world religions, is the power of the voice and of chanting.
Yes.
So sometimes when somebody's really locked in, we'll give them some particular chant, a mantra specific for them that can help shift their whole cognitive process and disconnect their senses from the world around them. And that will give them space then to be able to do deeper meditation and become freed from the hook of that media cycle, which is groupthink, which is toxic, actually. I didn't want to say it, but there it is.
It is. And it's funny because we're here at a remote viewing conference, and that's one of the things I talked about is just the fact of our brain is literally a transducer that lives in a resonant chamber of water. We are constantly sending and receiving. The only question is whether or not you're consciously processing that data. And that data is people's vibrations. It's something I teach my kid who's 8. You may have seen him kick him around. He kind of looks like me, but this big.
Cute.
Same big personality. But he has a big energy.
Sure.
big love energy, but not everybody responds to that,
No,
you
no.
know? And I tell him, like, when you walk into a room, you gotta reel that in. You gotta pull
Learn
that
to
in
be
to
in-
right
Learn
here.
to be invisible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, you know, whatever energy you bring into a room, that's you. That's on you. Like, if you come into a
Although
room.
love energy is always good
It's-
for
it's
everybody,
beautiful.
but
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it calls attention to him. It may not be appropriate.
Yeah, and not just that. It's also the fact of it's an intense love energy. So even amongst kids and stuff, it can be like, hey man, like
back off.
Yeah. You know, where it's like, no, seriously, a little bit of
Yeah.
personal space. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful. But to make him conscious of that, and to, even at that age, like you can start that young,
Yeah.
of the awareness of who you are, and how you affect and ripply affect the world around you.
You know, there's a source text of Ayurveda, which
Really?
is the Vedic medical
Yeah,
model
yeah.
called Charka Samhita. And I could get off on a tangent. The Charka Samhita is attributed to Patanjali, who wrote Yoga Sutras. So yoga and Patanjali is said to have brought forward both yoga and Ayurveda. But one of the things we teach them when we're training teachers and therapists in particular is a quote from the Charka Samhita, which says, "The physician should wear neutral clothing." And if you think about what your son's saying, it's not exactly being invisible, but it's not about you. It's about the people
It's about
around
the
you.
people
So you
around
want to
you.
just be present, but sort of in neutral.
Not
So you're not calling
affecting
attention
it.
to yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the drop of ego of yoga.
Exactly.
And also, once again, the fact of realizing that, hey, if you're wearing hard, distractive clothing, something like that may harsh somebody's vibe as you come into
Absolutely.
the room.
And of course, it's a metaphor not only for the clothing, but how you talk, how you present yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, how do you begin to, especially in this modern day and age, let's talk about that unplugging algorithm that you're talking about, that mantra concept, because I think that's something that a lot of people hear about but don't necessarily understand to the full extent of what we all know Om Mani Padme Om, things like that, but the idea of a personalized mantra, something that actively, once again, plucks the string of your chord specifically. How does that work?
It can be, there's a couple of things about that, because sometimes we're suffering from something in particular, like we lack self-confidence, or we lack the courage to face what we have to deal with, or the clarity to know what the right choices are. So the different mantras relate to when you need more clarity, when you need more courage, or when you just need support. And then there's others which are more about qualities that you want to cultivate, like strength or courage and so forth. So it's an individualized process of connecting to what a person really needs, but also what symbols speak to their heart, what symbols are resonant for them.
Yeah.
So for somebody, it might be a Vedic mantra. For somebody else, you said Om Mani Padme Hum is Tibetan. For somebody else, it can be a Christian or a Catholic mantra, or a non-sectarian one, like words like infinity or gratitude or harmony.
Yeah.
So you find what's going to help them either face what they need to face or cultivate a quality they want to that they want to cultivate, and they have to be open to it.
Yeah.
But then when they use that, then they start to embody that quality.
Interesting.
If they're consistent with the practice.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny that you bring up like a former Roman Catholic seminarian. I had a large devotion to the Rosary and to the Blessed Mother, and
that's a powerful mantra.
It is, and
Absolutely.
that's just it, and that's something that I tried to explain to people for decades. Gary, was the idea that there is no difference between the mala beads I'm wearing and somebody in Tibet using them,
it's the same.
or us praying the Hail Mary.
Right. All of
50
the traditions of the world have philosophical language and symbolic language. You know, philosophical language answers questions like, why are we here? Who are we? What's the meaning and purpose of life?
Sure.
But symbolic language helps us participate in the mystery, in those sources that are contained and revealed by the symbolism. Mother Mary, for example, is a powerful symbol. Lakshmi is an example of a powerful Vedic symbol.
Yeah.
They're not, I wouldn't say they're the same exactly, but they serve that same potential purpose for a human being who needs that support, who needs grace, who needs
they serve
the
the
blessings
same,
of the divine.
And the same example of who to be and how to be. you know, and it's interesting to see those things, like you're saying, and like we say on the show all the time, these are echoed in different religions, different faiths, different philosophic traditions. Absolutely.
It's definitely human.
Absolutely. And once you learn to understand that, but once again, like you're saying, there's a beautiful point of loss of ego and gain of self-respect. You know,
it's a paradox, right? Because you know, first you have to have that self-respect before you can empty yourself and realize you're nobody.
Well,
you know, to empty yourself of your self-importance.
After the seminary, this is my example that I give people. After the seminary, I spent 10 years as a youth minister.
Good for you. I'm happy to hear.
Taught CCE, taught confirmation, taught adult education, all kinds of things. Substitute teacher, all kinds of stuff. Then I moved to Maine, and I worked on me. Because for 10 years, I totally ignored me. I spent every day worrying about other people, other people's kids, everything else. I was not, that's why I ended up in addiction. That's why all kinds of things happened to me, because I didn't
The rosary
take the
would have been a
time
better addiction,
It
but
would have been.
it's still an addiction in a sense.
Well, and you know, it's one of those, like, it was a big awakening in my life, because yes, that was something that I taught people not to do, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same token, it was one of those, I was not working on me, and if I was working on me, that would have never happened.
Well, in the church and in the Western tradition, we call it spiritual praxis, Praxis, as you know. And that's what sadhana is. Yoga sadhana is an actual practice. It's not just learning in theory. It's an actual practice that we apply, that we use to transform our dysfunction, to transform our dysfunctional nature, and to actualize our higher potentials.
Let's get into that real quick. We have about 10 minutes left. For the next 5 minutes, let's talk about that, how people in everyday life, because I think that is something that just about everybody walking around needs some help with. Just about everybody. You know,
because we're acting continuously, and our action creates consequences.
That's right.
So our practice is an action that creates new patterns. What we say in yoga is that we have these deep patterns that drive our desires, then our feelings, and our thoughts, and our behavior.
Yeah.
And that what I was taught in yoga, you know, when I was a kid, is not about your hamstrings. It's about your desires, feelings, thoughts, and behavior. The deep work is to transform that. Yeah. And that's what sadhana is about. So you gain mastery, you transform elevate your desires, and then transform them, and then gain mastery over your feelings and your thoughts. And that will influence your behavior. And then you that's the strategy for creating auspiciousness in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, once I made that conscious, once I consented to help me over other people, because, hey, I'm sorry, folks, and I tell people all the time, if you want to call it selfish, great. It's the most selfish and awesome thing I ever did. My cup is constantly full.
Yeah.
It constantly runneth over, and I can help tons of people.
Yeah, until you're stable and clear and freed from your own drama, you can't really help others.
Well, it's like trying to say, like, I keep dating and I can't find the right person. Are you happy with you?
Yeah.
Because if you aren't happy with you, and like you aren't a whole person, the whole idea of like you complete me, that's a heavy burden to place on
We agree,
somebody.
like that's me and that's you, and we're in conflict. Let's look together there and walk together on the path together. Yeah,
exactly.
Beautiful.
And that's just it, you know, understanding the fact that like you are the linchpin. The example I used to give the kids I taught was I gave them all a slinky the first night. And it was like, don't touch the slinky. Enjoy the slinky, look at the slinky, appreciate the slinky as we talk about everything tonight. And then at the end of the night, it was now hold your slinky. Does it slink? All that pent-up potential energy of a spring does nothing until you push it.
Yeah.
That's the universe, kids.
Yeah.
It'll go downstairs, go over in pairs, do all those things, but you have to be the one to push it.
You have to drive. You know, there's a beautiful... you talk about sadhana. This could be a beautiful story to end this.
Please.
It's from the Katha Upanishad.
Okay.
One of the source texts of Vedic revelation, and it's the parable of the chariot. The parable of the chariot. So the chariot's the body, and the horses are the senses. The reins are the mind. The driver is the intellect, and the passenger, the owner of the chariot, is our true being. And for most of us, the horses are out of control, running after objects that we see in the world of name and form. And our job is to drive the chariot. That is, the mind should control the senses. The driver, the intellect, should control the mind. And the job of the intellect is to drive the chariot wherever the owner, the passenger who's the owner, wants to go. So it's like, take charge of your own life.
Yeah.
Become the master of the chariot of your own life. Otherwise, you're just running your patterns.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those may not be good patterns. Like we say all the time, there's frequency of sound, frequency of light, and frequency of thought.
Yes,
and
indeed.
that frequency of thought is both good and bad, and frequent or non-frequent, and you have to balance that. You have to balance how, and really turn things and learn to see that, like, even if you fail, there's a way to learn how you failed. And that's a good thing.
And
because
then
you can stop the pattern now.
And then in relation to that, we say, and then examine your values and priorities. What's really important for you, because you're moving down this river that's going to merge with the ocean at the end of life. There's no stopping that. So what are your values and priorities? And then align your actions, thoughts, and feelings with those values and priorities.
Absolutely.
And that's the purpose of practice, to facilitate that journey.
Gary, I am so glad we had this conversation today,
honor,
man.
sir.
Like, honestly, I've got goosebumps. I'm all warm inside. It's beautiful. Let everybody know where they can go to find out about the American Viniyoga Institute, where they can go. You have classes. You have all kinds of things. You said you even do stuff in my hometown.
Yes, indeed.
In Austin. Let everybody know where they can go to find out more.
Thank you, sir. So www. And it's viniyoga.com, Viniyoga, viniyoga.com. And there's a whole database of classes that are online, different topics, how to work with the symbolism of the gods and goddesses, how to work with the breath, how to fix your back if you have back pain or your neck problems. And then we have training programs in Austin, Texas, at the Ancient Yoga Center, which is a little south of the airport in Austin. And then this December, we do annual live-in retreat. I call it the Heart Mind Retreat. It's an inner practice. And this one is coming up as the six-spoked wheel of cause and effect, which perpetuates our entanglement in the world of name and form. And so those are 5-day live-in events, 4 nights in Austin, and this one will be in December. It's all on viniyoga.com.
Wow, amazing. Well, I definitely need to check that out, and I have tons of people to tell about that.
I'm honored, sir.
Gary, thank you so much for your time. It was more than a pleasure.
All the best to you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with your community.
Anytime, I want to have you on again and again and again. These are the kind of messages that I love to be able to give to my audience, because it's something that can help anybody every day.
Yeah.
And it's literally a shift of mindset and attitude. And once you do that, the world is 180 degrees different.
Life changed.
Yeah, it is. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
While you are online checking out everything from Gary and the American Viniyoga Institute, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe. It's where you can find all of our episodes. That's where you can find all of our live coverage on our events page from awesome events like the PsiGames right here. Stay tuned through these quick commercial breaks, and we'll be right back with our continuing live coverage of PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, right after this.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at curiousrealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is curiousrealm.com/store.